But today I want to talk about a woman that was tired of her whipping. The text tells us that she had been enduring this whipping for 12 long years. 12 years. This woman, according to the text, had an issue of blood. Now, the word issue means a constant flow or flux of blood. In other words, if I could put it in your lap today, she was on her cycle day after day. According to the Levitical law, this made this woman ceremonially unclean, which means that she couldn't go to the temple, which means if she were married, her husband had to divorce her. Because if he stayed in close proximity with her, then he too would become unclean. If she had children, they were to either go with the husband or be put up for the orphanage, because if they stayed close to her, they too would be unclean. She could not go, if we would put it in modern days terminology, she could not go to the local faith healer and have him lay hands on her, because he would become unclean. She did not have, amen, GTE wireless, Verizon, or Sprint. No, she didn't have a telephone system to call her friends for encouragement. All she had was her disease and herself. I want you to know today that there are times in our lives that we can be in a room full of folk and still feel all alone. You can be in the crowd, as a matter of fact, the leader of the crowd, and feel like no one even cares about your predicament. And I want to say to you today that when we have these type of issues, when we have these types of problems, we will either face them head on and deal with them, or they will find a way to deal with us. For whatever reason, this certain woman would not allow herself to become contented with her situation. And that's a lot of the problem of people in the church. They accept what fate seems to allow them to go through. And rather than seeking change, rather than seeking deliverance, they accept what they're going through and say, this is just my way of life. But how many of you know that Dr. Frank Ray from Memphis, Tennessee said you don't have to be on welfare when you serve a God that wants you to fare well. See, you got to understand that the God we serve can do exceeding and abundantly above all we ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. Therefore, your circumstance may be, amen, hellish. Your problem may be more than you can bear, but there is a power that works on the inside of you if you can only touch it by faith. I heard Paul say in Romans chapter 8 that the same spirit that rose Jesus from the dead lies within every believer. And if he's able to raise up the dead, what can he do in your life? Don't be alarmed when you have to take some whippings, because the Bible nor does Jesus fail to address the fact that we will go through some struggle. Psalm 34:19, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but God hath delivered us from them all. Don't you remember hearing Jesus say in John 16:33, in the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. In other words, you will face some dilemmas. You will face some depressing moments. You will face some days of despair, some moments of desperation. You will face some moments of despondency, but God will never leave you to deal with your life circumstance by yourself. Touch somebody and tell them the Lord won't leave you. Well, some of you are ready to argue and debate that because you just said, well, this woman was all by herself. This woman didn't have anybody to help her. No one was there for her. But one thing this woman had was faith. Because she was not contented, she kept striving for healing. Let's look at what she did with her faith. Sometimes we have faith, but we have it in the wrong people. We have it in the wrong stuff. So my first point I want to highlight today is that this woman had faulty faith, and she placed it in fraudulent facilities. She placed faulty faith in fraudulent facility. In other words, she believed and knew that some way, somehow, she was going to get well. But her faith was faulty because she placed it in folk that could do her no good. It's right here in the text because it said she had suffered. Somebody say suffered. Now, suffer here means much more than to just go through trouble. But suffer here in the Greek is pasco, which means to endure evil intention. In other words, when the text tells us that she suffered many things of many physicians, they knew originally when they first heard her diagnosis that they could not heal her. And there's a lot of folk that you put trust in. There's a lot of people that you put faith in, that you thought were on your side. You thought they had your back. You thought they were your prayer partners. But when you needed them most, not only were they not there, but you found out that they were the source of your trouble. Some of you have put faith in your best friend. You told your best friend all your secrets, and before long, they had everything you told them all over time. There are some folk that God never intends for us to allow in our lives. And some of the folk that we allow to get close to us are the same folk that God is saying, stay away from. But this woman, remember now, she was desperate. And all she wanted was to be whole again. And she put faith in fraudulent facilities because these doctors knew that they were frauds. They knew that there was, at this time, no medical solution for her predicament. But see, the woman had something. The text says she had money. It's right here. It says that she suffered many things of many physicians and spent all that she had. The first thing we see that her faith was in fraudulent facilities because they took her resources. And see, there are some folk that's standing on the sidelines of your life. They notice what kind of car you drive. They notice what kind of clothes you wear. They notice what kind of house you live in. And when they befriend you, they only want to become leeches in your life to sap you of everything that you have. And when you don't have anything else left, when you can't set out the party anymore, when you can't provide the meals anymore, when you can't provide the entertainment anymore, the same folk that you used to give rides to, the same folk that you listen to their problems, the same folk that you were always there for have now turned their backs on you because they never wanted you, they wanted your stuff.